Hey friends, welcome back to Nosy AF Conversations about art, activism, and social change. I am your host and friend, Stephanie Graham, and today's guest has one of the best titles ever. They are a culture consultant. Like, how chic and cool is that? I totally want people to consult me for culture. Like, I want to be a culture consultant. I am joined by Garland Fuller, who is a systems thinker and founder of Third Space Academy. And we are going to have a conversation about values, third spaces, leadership, and how people decide whether something actually feels like it's for them. This conversation hits really close to home for me since last year I participated in a fellowship called the Change Collective, where I began developing a civic action plan towards building a pop-up cinema project in my neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. And so many of the questions that Garland raises about culture, belonging, and intention have been living in my brain. So we talked invisible culture, community dynamics, and why the whole idea of I want everyone to come is much more trickier than it sounds. So, per usual, let's get into our theme music and let's get into our conversation with Garland Fuller. Welcome to Nosy AF.
Gotta get up. Tell the whole world you a winner. Vision of a star with a mission in the cause. What you doing, how you doing, what you doing, and who you are. Flex yourself, impress yourself. Check yourself, don't wreck yourself. If you know me, then you know that I be knowing what's up. Hey, Stephanie Graham is nosy as
Well, Garland, welcome to Nosy AF.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here as well. I think you have one of the coolest job titles as culture consultant, because really, what an honor.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty when you have your own business. You can call yourself queen of the world if you want.
Right? That's a good title too. So wait, how does one become a culture consultant outside of just titling themselves that?
Yeah. So I started, I'd say, the way I look at work, the way I look at people, everything is in a system. Sometimes we're not aware that we're in a system. Sometimes we are acutely aware that we are in a system. And so the system works in the way it does. And what I find is that the culture, meaning the things that we put value on, so that's sometimes our values, our mission statement, how we do business with each other, how we talk to each other, all of those things are, I feel like, the invisible thing that is culture. And some organizations are very much clear on their culture, how they operate. They make an effort every day to live their values. They treat people in the way that their values states. And then some organizations, it's on paper, we love it, it stays there, and we don't sometimes walk and talk our values. And so the big part of the work that I do is, are we walking the talk? Are we taking these ideas like creativity, integrity, excellence, service, all of the things that you've heard organizations say they're about?
Yeah.
Are we actually living them? And how are we putting those into practice in our everyday business? How we lead people, how we promote people, how we recruit people. I call it my people place program. Like, how are we putting this together? And so for me, culture is sometimes the unseen. However, you feel it. You feel it very, very clearly. Yeah.
You know, it seems like a lot of organizations say, oh, we focus on like service and integrity. Is there ever anybody that's like, okay, can you pick another word to say?
I feel like some organizations actually mean it, and some are so client focused. They're thinking about what would a client want to hear? Would a client sign up with us if they knew we had this as our values? And in some of them, I feel like everyone does them. The fact that you're stating it is, I don't want to say obvious, but it's like, okay, so how is your service any different than anyone else's service?
Yeah.
I feel like there are some organizations that do reset those on a regular basis, which you should, because sometimes we find them, they were that way, we keep them, but the organization has evolved. Everything's changed, but we still keep these same values because this was what we were founded on or whatnot. But so much has changed since. So I also find that working with organizations when they realize our values are not aligned anymore, we started this way maybe 20, 30, 50 years ago, and who we are now and who we need to be successful going forward doesn't align anymore with what we said we used to do or be.
Yeah. It always makes you seem like that, like organizations, they always have to make sure that their values are positive. But I guess it just comes off positive always. I guess, can anybody have like a, like their values are like no women?
I mean, so it's interesting because values are supposed to be the thing that embodies who you say you are, meaning I always say your values are kind of like a litmus test. So if you say, we are about integrity, then it means, are we going to do something even though it makes us more money? However, from an integrity standpoint, we could do something different that would make us less money, but it's better for the client. Should we just do what's going to make us more money, even though it's not in an integrity fashion? And so that's when you're starting to see, okay, do we actually hold that up?
Mhm.
Or I find that it also can be things you want to embody. So creativity, maybe innovation, maybe you desire for it to be a place where people have a sense of autonomy over what it is they do. So creativity maybe gives you a sense of, I have some agency and I can create something here, and I am encouraged to do that, versus we keep doing it the same way. I don't want to hear any new ideas. I don't want you to try to come up with something new. I just like you to just keep doing what we're already doing. So it's usually positive because I think it's aspirational.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, because then it always gives yourself something to measure up to or like to check yourself against.
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned your people place program. That seems like that's something that's really central to your work. Can you break down what that means and how it shapes the academy that you founded, Third Space Academy? How does that shape Third Space Academy's vision?
Yeah. So in my many years of working with people and talent and organizations, I came to see that when I was building programs, when I was building initiatives, when I was looking at how to make a space more intentional, again, looking at culture, how do we embed certain things into what we're doing? The three things that stood out for me that I noticed I kind of go back to all the time is people, meaning who are we building for? What are the things that we want to build for a specific group of people, whether that is a generation of people, whether that is women, whether that is Black and brown people, LGBTQ, whether it is leaders, people who hold a certain title versus entry-level folks who are just getting started sometimes. So when you look at people from a who am I serving, you start to realize everyone has different needs. When you have different needs for that group and you really ask the questions to ensure that you're understanding what their needs are, you can start to create a better place and a better program. Place for me is more than physical space. Physical space is important. However, it's also the psychological space that you're holding. It's the space that you are looking at. How do I infuse this and make this a place that people feel welcome, feel a sense of belonging, feel a sense of connection? And how you do that for me is through your programming. Your programming is key because if you are not building programming with your people and your place in mind, you're not taking into consideration the information that you're being given. So for me, Third Space Academy came out of, how do I build programs? How do I build initiatives? When I gather people and I want them to feel like this is a space for them, what are the things that I look at and go through to ensure that they feel like this is a place for them to actually show up, feel seen, want to participate? And that's I think a big part of third spaces, as you know, third spaces are a space that isn't home. It's not work. It's kind of this third space where you're connecting with people, you're conversing, you're sharing ideas, you're possibly learning something new. It can be anything from, a library, a garden, a cafe. It can be a silent book club. It can be your favorite record shop that you go to that does new listening Fridays and everybody comes to listen to the new music that the record shop gets. I mean, it's the places that kind of remind you, I feel like, the things that you love, that your special interests. Sometimes it could be something you're interested in you haven't done before.
Mm-hmm.
And you're wanting to kind of discover or learn. What I've noticed is our third spaces have either become very difficult to find because there's just not enough of them, or accessibility issues with, sometimes things cost money to participate in. And some things I think have become very exclusive. We talked about exclusivity, like, your country club or your Soho house or your whatever place where the price point is there to ensure that certain groups of people are able to be there. Those are third spaces too.
Yeah.
And so those are a little bit different in terms of their values, what they are saying they want their members to feel. But it's a third space nevertheless. I just think when we're thinking about it is, how can we ensure that we're capturing the essence of the group or groups of people that we want to include and have be present in the spaces that we are creating?
Yeah. How do you respond to folks like when you talk about people and they say, Garland, I want everybody to come? That's so tricky.
Yes.
But people mean it. They mean it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I call them like all age spaces. And I feel like we don't have enough of those because it's interesting when I travel to other parts of the world and you see the young and the old, and there's not a sense of a difference between a group of people and families. Like everyone can come. And it's usually in big courtyard, plaza, marketplace type spaces.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they sometimes don't even say all ages just by virtue of the fact that they're there in a common space.
Mm-hmm.
It automatically means everyone is invited.
Yeah.
I feel like in America, we have stratified everything so that we can target the niche, the group, brand it a certain way so that we know these are people that I am looking to bring in. So even the photos that we use to advertise the thing are trying to send a message on who is it that this is supposed to attract. I know myself when I think about you still know who your like primary group that you want to have at this thing. You know your target group that you want. You can have all people. They may not be all at the same time because different people have different needs. And so I think about if you're catering something to singles between the ages of 30 and 40 years old, they are not going to want to be in certain spaces where families are between the ages of 30 and 40 years old, whether alcohol is served, whether it gets loud, whether things are accessible for children to use. Like when people are in the space, they're going to be there to do certain things. And so when you think about that, all of these things factor. It's not going to be a space for everyone. But I feel like there are times where we do have all age spaces. So like a farmer's market, any and everyone can come to a farmer's market, right?
Yeah.
If you have some type of outdoor run walk club, anybody can come to that. If it's some type of, possibly if you specifically want to tell people that it's all ages, you can put all ages there, but be cognizant. If someone comes with a 6-month-old baby and a 75-year-old woman or man or someone who has ability needs, you're able to roll with the punches of those needs.
Yeah.
And so it's very much sometimes not easy to do all age, depending on what it is. But it's definitely, I think, aspirational. It's aspirational to want to have everyone there. I mean, this is why people create certain spaces where they take into consideration different things and have things in place in order to ensure that it's easy for particular groups of people.
Yeah, listening to you talk, I think just thinking about the imagery of how you might promote what you have going on in your programs makes so much sense. So like, for example, I've been working on this micro cinema, and I feel like if I have it in my neighborhood, that of course would be all ages, but if it's a night that I want to play poetic justice, clearly maybe that's not something you bring your 6-year-old to, but if we have like Disney, like Little Mermaid, we're doing like all Disney films like on the weekends, just like by, probably naming of the title, people will know. Or maybe I'd have to state, because maybe people might not be able to get a sitter and they would bring their baby to Poetic Justice. I don't know. So I'd have to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's having something for the kids there.
Oh, yeah.
So that way there is something to keep them engaged. So maybe it's a double feature. The kids are watching one thing, the parents are watching another.
Yeah.
Or it might be, something where, I mean, I'm big on like asking parents what they want.
Sure.
Because I feel like some people are like, depending on the age of the child, will be like, if you have a teenager, they might watch it together. If you have a little one, like 5, 6, maybe not. Time of day, like if it's 5 to 9 versus 7 to 11. Those are 2 different time frames. So it depends. I do think that doing all age things helps to create a stronger community because you start to realize all of the people that are in your neighborhood.
Yes.
And so you're able to create more opportunities for them to engage and intersect in spaces that they normally may not. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I know it's such a great opportunity to learn your neighbors, right? Like, for example, my neighborhood, we just had a taco party. Like, one of our neighbors just threw it at his house. And there were so many kids here who were graduating from college who I've never seen. Like, there's the group that I always see out and about that I'll talk to. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, where are you guys? Like, I had no idea. And they were able to talk to some of the other adults about where they're going to school. Maybe somebody knows a connection. And I'm like, I'm so glad that they had this taco party just for simple fact of knowing who lives here.
Yeah.
But some of these cities are
awesome.
big. Some of these neighborhoods are just so big. And it's like you have no idea who's around.
I mean, what I've noticed in this country is that we have, especially in a city like Los Angeles, where I am, very car-centered place. People jump in their cars, jump on the highway, go to wherever they need to go. And so, honestly, you don't have to know your neighbors unless you have a neighborhood that has that kind of feel and you have neighborhood watch or you have some type of homeowners association or some means of people actually talking to their neighbors. You can live in a city with a variety of people, whether it's an apartment or a home, and not know who is living next door to you at all.
Yeah, it's so true.
Which is crazy.
It is super crazy. Yeah, it's so bizarre because it's like we're literally right next door to each other. I've lived in space like that where I have no idea who my neighbors are. Now I know my neighbors, but yeah, it's bizarre. And we'll live there for years and barely know each other. But how did your own background and experience influence the direction of Third Space?
Yeah, I'd say I've always been someone who, if I look back, I've always been a joiner. I am the person who's like, if there's something going on and they say, come out or come on, I'm like, sure, let's go. I'll go. Yeah. Without needing very much, it's basic information, but, some people are much more hesitant to say yes. I am a joiner and I'll just join and see what it is and then discern if it's something I want to do. And so I noticed, looking back over my life, like I'm always involved in something, whether it is, was a track team in high school. It was the National Association of Black Accountants in college. I also worked and kind of had a role at the University Health Services as a peer educator. And so I'm the person who is always like, oh, I'm interested. Like, let me know. And then once I get involved, I'm like, let me take a leadership position. And so because I have ideas, I have thoughts, I see that this could be different or better, or I have something I'd like to see happen. And so I have always been this person, even while I, was working full time. I started becoming involved in an organization, tutoring kids at one point, just as a community service, and doing that kind of stuff has always been a part of who I am. And then when I became a board member for an organization recently, the African American Real Estate Professionals of Los Angeles, I had an opportunity to go, I feel like, full raise your hand and full like do some cool stuff. And growing an organization that was we had maybe like 60 people who would regularly come together, but not a full trade organization with members and membership dues and all of this. And I had an experience that let me know that this could be bigger than a lot of people thought it could be, and was actively engaged in seeing this vision that I had come to fruition and taking the time outside of work to do it because I knew it was going to be something really cool. And so in building this organization over 3 years, getting it to like 400 members, getting sponsors,
Wow.
getting a whole lot of stuff, like building a website. I mean, I learned a ton of stuff. I realized I like to do this work. Like, this is the work that makes me feel alive. This is the work that makes me want to help other people find that vision that they have of what they want something to be. And let's go and figure out how to get there, how to build it, how to get you where you want to go. And so if I could do that, I was like, well, what else can I do? Like,
Yeah.
where else can this go?
I love that somebody's like, we got the seed, and you're like, and I got the water, and I got the rake, and I got the hoe. I'm going to take care of it.
And I worked with a lot of people. And, our board was at the time, I think they were like, really? You think so? And I was like, yes. And I was like, I'll show you what I know how to do. And they were like, okay, we'll do this and we'll do that. So they trusted me to do my part, which was like, I'm the people strategy expert. Like, how do we get people to come in and do things? And how do we encourage them to become involved? And how do we create a flywheel where they're like telling other people about it and then bringing other people to join? And so I wouldn't say all of it was me, but I feel like the ability to see that there was something possible and then make steps towards recognizing that we could do it. I realized that this could be something major, and I was like, let's go. And so that's, I think, what's inspired me to start to work with Third Space Academy and work with organizations, because I can see sometimes, okay, this is what you want to do. Okay, let's work towards that. But also, have you considered, I'm looking at what's happening in your neighborhood, like there are people that you aren't bringing in, because that's another thing. Who's missing? I always ask a lot about who's missing, who's not here.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's folks that are like right around, but for whatever reason, the messaging or, everyone's not digital. There's some folks of a certain generation that still love to get something in the mail.
Yeah.
Or like to get an email. And so you're looking at everything and thinking, okay, how are we going to get everyone, if that's what you like? How do we get everyone out?
Yeah, exactly. As you were talking, I was like, wow, Garland's like a cheerleader for folks. But then maybe not, because then you came through with like the strategic part. Like, well, what else, So then it's like, not a coach, but maybe a coach, but consultant.
A consultant. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there's some coaching in what I do. I feel like the term coach has been co-opted by
Yes.
so many things.
I swear, it's like the new corner boy. It's the new hustle. It really is. I'm a coach. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand it. I feel like it is very much. I mean, when I think back to my time running track and cross country, and literally my coach was making sure that I was doing the things I needed to do to strengthen and condition my body in order to perform when I needed to perform.
Mhm.
So making sure I was going to the gym and doing the proper exercises, making sure I was doing the proper, running practices and techniques in order for me to. And so when I think about coaching, you're still doing the work. Like
Yeah.
the person who is hiring the coach or they're there to ensure that you're not hurting yourself, that you're
Yeah.
not damaging anything. They're making sure that your goals are what you say they are and that you're hitting them and reaching them. But they can't win the race for you. You still have to be out there practicing and hooping it up or whatever it is. And so from that standpoint, yes, there is some coaching there. It's a lot of listening with coaching. I'm telling you what I'm hearing you say back at you and then encouraging you to ask some questions and think through it further. I sometimes know the answer, but I need you to know the answer. And then sometimes I know the answer. And if you're kind of like scared to say it, I'll say it.
Okay. Right.
But for the most part, it's very much, I mean, there is some coaching there, but a lot of it I feel like is, what is the information telling us?
Yeah.
I don't like, throwing my hand up in the wind and seeing which way it blows. That's a part of it. That is a part. But also, like, what information do we have available to us that we can use to infer who our target group is or who we aren't targeting or what we would love to do more of that we just haven't made an effort to do, or what we have been doing, but that hasn't been working and we may need to consider something else.
Yeah.
And so that's the work that I feel like I'm an investigator, a little bit investigative, a little bit of a cultural sociology type person. Like I used to love sociology classes in college because I was so fascinated that different groups had different things. And you're just like, what? This is how this group works? And when I travel, it's always like, this is another way of doing this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
nothing different, not bad, not good, just different.
And also, really quick side note, when you were doing track and field, was your coach, did they do that for free? Like, because you were just a part of the team, or were they paid? Because I think but
They were paid.
By you and your family?
No, by
Right.
the school.
But right.
Yeah, by the school.
It seems like for the student, that's their last opportunity to get free coaching. Outside of that, baby, it's all paid. You got to pay for support.
I mean, kind of. I mean, I feel like you can I do coaching programs with people.
Yeah.
And so I think the cost goes down when you are doing it in a group. I like doing it in a group because I think community, again, I believe in the power of learning together.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that people don't feel alone when they realize someone else is going through a change or a transformation of some sort. Oh, wow, you felt that way too. I felt that way too. There's a sense of resonance and recognition sometimes that you can't see in yourself, but you can see in someone else.
For sure.
When what do they say? When you're in the frame, you can't see the picture.
Right.
But when you look at someone else's picture, you can see everything.
Yeah.
So there's something really special. I love coaching people who want to be pushed or know that something's not right.
Yeah.
But I like doing it in a group, which is why the Third Space Academy is there, because when you're a leader, a change maker, you're having to put the things together. It can be very thankless.
Mm-hmm.
People just show up to stuff. Things happen. Nobody knows the amount of planning and coordinating and organizing that happened. They just show up to the event and they're like, this is great. And you're like, wait a minute, like I've been working on this thing for a month. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of, I remember one time I went, I wonder if this lady is still consulting, but she was a creative consultant. And usually, like, to work with her one on one was really expensive. But
yeah.
she opened up the doors for like photographers who had been doing this maybe like 1 to 3 years. We could each pay her $400 and then we could all work with her together. And it was only like maybe 6 of us. And she took maybe like 30 minutes with each of us. And so she would work with us, but we got to listen to her, talk to the other person, and then also got to chime in on like our own experiences. She would ask the group questions, and it was really, really helpful, sort of going to your point of like working in groups, because I thought that that also helped me like learn how to talk about photography more, learn how to talk about like the business of photography more. And at the end, I was like, I'm so glad I did that. And like we like still stayed in touch with my cohort members, and she actually even enjoyed it because that was her first time doing something like that. Because otherwise, if she wouldn't have done it, I would never have been able to work with her. So I really, really like that. So yeah, I think that Third Space Academy, being able like to work in a group is really beneficial just because you get to hear other people's experiences and participate in the conversations about it as well.
Yeah. I don't think after we leave college or after we leave school, whatever formal school that you've had, I feel like you now have to go find spaces to learn.
Yeah, we just out here.
Otherwise, we're just, you can just stay where you're at.
Yeah. So you've also built the Community Impact Collective, which you describe as a digital sanctuary for femmes who are done trying to fit into boxes. And I'm just so curious, like, what inspired this space?
Yeah. So when I started doing consulting on my own, I realized it became very quickly, if you don't have a workplace that you go to every day to be around other creatives, other coaches, other leadership development folks, it can feel very isolating. And so you're doing your work, you've got your things that you're doing, you're putting out. But if you don't have your group of people who also have the same, challenges, and depending on where you are on the life cycle of your business, the 1 to 5 year mark I hear is like, it's just uphill. It can feel difficult. You need people to talk you off of the ledge from time to time because you're like, I don't know that I can do this. This is so hard. Why did I say that I wanted to do this? This is crazy. And then you've got folks who, are further along and they are great at helping you to see, like I said, the picture when you're in it. And sometimes are able to tell you, hey, I've tried this, or maybe you want to try that, or just listen to you and say, have you considered? And also I find that we all are using tools for different things. And so if someone has found a tool that they have found to be helpful in getting something done, you're like, oh, that maybe I want to try that. And so it can be, I think, more of a place for when you are wanting to make an impact, when you're building your own third space, if you have your own business and you're looking to ensure that you have a group of people to just touch base with. We have something called Show and Tell Mondays where like we're in kindergarten where, you come and you show and you tell about what you're working on or what you'd like accountability.
Love that.
Because I find that sometimes, you're working on your little thing over here and it's like, well, show people, tell them about it. Like, and this is when you realize, oh, I probably shouldn't be talking about it like that. Maybe I should talk about it like this instead. Or someone says, I know someone who does something that's adjacent to that. Maybe you want to talk to them because they may have clients that you guys can, consider together or partner on something. And so there's just a sense, what I have seen with women in this space is that we are far more collaborative and wanting to help each other and wanting to see other people be successful than sometimes when I talk to men. I find that sometimes they're very closed with what they're doing. They're not as transparent around, what's working for them. You sometimes aren't able to get them to tell you how they did something, not because you want to take anything from them just to understand how something works.
Yeah.
And I find that women are far more, oh, let me tell you what happened to me. Or, oh yeah, I tried that, it worked. But then when I got to this part of my business, it just wasn't as effective anymore. So I moved over and did this instead. And so there's a sense of sharing
Yeah.
that I find to be so huge in a building. If you're any kind of building environment where you're building something or you're creating something, you just want to feel like you're a part of something other than what you're working on. And so this community is an opportunity to be with other people, learning, growing, co-creating. It's not very overwhelming, but if you say, hey, like I had a conversation yesterday with a member and she's like, I'm working on a book and I would really like for us to like maybe once a month meet up and like write. And I was like, okay, I can get behind that. So we might have a writing space in a minute. So it's one of those what members need and we work together to put it together. I mean, I'm the facilitator, the guide, but I am not the one idea, one thing person.
Yeah.
I feel like if it works for everyone and we can agree to some sense of this is what it is, then we do it. If it's only for me and I do it for myself, then that's what it is.
Yeah. How do you like allow yourself to sort of like in facilitation, it seems like you have to let go and like be generous. How do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I think about the whole.
Okay.
You have to think about the bigger group. And there's a lot of empathy. I'm very empathetic, probably too much. However, for me,
just like naturally you are?
Naturally.
Okay.
Naturally empathetic. I also am I can sense when people, like I'm the person who your tone changes and I can tell something's up.
Ah, okay.
And so I can sense when people are like, something's not right or something's off. And so when I do group facilitation, I'm watching a lot of what's happening. I'm present. I have a plan. I always go into the classroom or a group with a plan. However, I'm aware that, and this maybe is the teacher part of me, if it's not resonating, if you're not getting it, like there's a group of people here that's like, we will stop and go through it and then get back on the plan. I'm not going to steamroll through the thing to get it done.
Yeah.
I can figure out a way because I made the plan to get it through to get us where we need to go at the end.
Yeah.
And I find that you do have to be a little open. I don't do huge classes either, too, because I think when you're doing this type of work, you want to ensure that you're present for the group of people. So like hundreds and hundreds, like at that point, no one's listening. You're just delivering things. But I do feel like with facilitation, you kind of are meeting people where they're at and you don't ever know who's coming with what.
Yeah. And this is just something that you could just like guide just off your experience, that? Or like, have you taken like an improv class or anything?
I haven't taken an improv class. It's funny because my child is a theater kid.
Oh, really?
And so I've learned a lot more about that world.
Yeah.
Watching her or being, involved with the things that she's doing. And I think I've learned how to do this when I was a peer educator because they trained us to like not respond alarming.
Yeah.
We would have to go into the health center and this would be women between the ages of 18 and 22. Some have never had a gynecological exam. Some, culturally talking about sex or sexual activity is taboo. And so I went through 6 months of learning not only about how to like do this, but also learning about all of the things that fall under sexual activity, the taboo topics like orientation, gender identity. And I remember coming out of that and thinking, wow, like there's so much, like one, I didn't know about, but two, like anything is possible. Like,
Yeah.
and so when I learned how to do that, I realized you can't be asking, like you just, even how you ask a question,
Yeah. Seriously.
doesn't need to have too much, it's more so curious. Like, so how, or tell me more. Can you explain what, like, so it's more you trying to understand than you asking them to understand your position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge part of the learning. And I'm still learning. I mean, this
Yeah.
thing, it doesn't stop.
Sure.
You're never aware of everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably part of the curiosity is like, ooh, what else is out there?
Yeah. It's always, I did a fellowship where my friend Joe led the fellowship, and it was like a cohort of people. And he has a theater background. And it always made me wonder, like, because he was very open, like able to pivot easily. Like if a conversation maybe went somewhere and he had a curriculum to follow for the day, but like if it went somewhere, he easily was able to guide that. And he's an educator as well. So there's probably that in there as well. But I was just like, wow. I'm just like so
Yeah.
amazed at facilitators that can like bring things in and then like being able to let things go, let ideas go, bring ideas in, share ideas and like not hold things in because I feel like my training in film school, you always went to if I had an idea about how to do something, I would tell my boss and now it's my boss's idea and that boss would present it to their boss and now it's their idea, and it was rare that a boss would be like, oh, Stephanie had this great idea that, so like it would always be like presented as, you always pushed your idea up into the next person. So I'm always am just like, I think it's very beautiful, like the flow of it, of facilitation and like leading conversations. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think stopping or like pausing to address something
Mm-hmm.
builds more trust.
Yeah.
It also builds more growth and development. I think because I feel like you have to, and it's not, you can't stop for any and everything all the time, but there's times when
Right.
you can sense something's not landing or something's not working right here.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep going or I can just stop and address it or stop and ask questions. And the quizzical faces, I think when you're a facilitator or a teacher, the faces, they're like, what? What are
Yeah.
you saying? You're like, okay, I need to stop. Or sometimes you just go to that particular student and you're saying, hey, I saw your face. I noticed that you weren't looking very like, do you have some questions? And so you can also just isolate to a specific student if it's something where you're like, I don't necessarily need to stop the whole class for this, but like it is. And I think I've seen some people who like 25, 30 plus years teach. I call them the master teachers.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
I mean, they are, I've seen some teachers that I'm like, wow, like you are like, this is next level. Your ability to bring it back around, you teach it 3 different ways. You're able to then do small group, go to the group, you get the people like full engagement the whole time. Everybody is like on firing and like, yes. And they come back every week with more, or they show up. You're good when they show up office hours or after, or like they're trying to find you. You're like, oh, so you're really into what I'm teaching.
Wow. It's impressive. I remember I had a Pilates instructor who would always check people for their faces. They'd be like, Marilyn, why are you making that face? What's going on? What's hurting? Stephanie? She's like, who's making faces? Like, who wants to make a face, but you guys are scared I'm going to call your name? Because she would call in the class. She'd be like, Stephanie, why are you making a face? It's like, what hurts?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, hey.
Yeah, but she'll be right. Like, we would always be hurting, obviously, like from holding a pose too long or whatever. But yeah, Mimi. So yeah, you saying faces reminded me of her because that's really funny. So wait, so your 2 spaces, like Community Impact Collective and Third Space Academy, like how do they complement one another?
Yeah. So Community Impact Collective, I started at the beginning of this year. And within the community, Third Space Academy is one of the, coaching spaces that we have there. They go together because I knew I had to create a course, but I didn't want it to be freestanding.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many courses out there and programs and things. And I feel like, as I said, doing things in community is more important.
Yeah.
And so the Community Impact Collective was started first as a space to just bring the people together and bring the people in and just to find out, what do you want from this space and what is it that is top of mind for you? And then the Third Space Academy honestly came to me like, you need to create this space to show people how you do what you do. And I was like, do I though? And I was like, actually, I do. Because what I've been told over and over is you want to come back here. Like when I am involved in the programming, people want to come back here. There's this energy of like, this was really great. You can feel it. You can get this sense that someone was thinking about the details and that, and it's not just like event planning. I am not an event planner. I am not an event producer. It's very much the intentionality and making sure that your people, your place, and your program are ready to receive the vision that you have for your space, for your initiative, for whatever it is. And so that's how they complement each other. I'm thinking about, for Third Space Academy, working specifically with organizations, whether it's arts and culture organizations, youth organizations where maybe you haven't done any updating in a while. You've kind of let it grow stale. You maybe are going off of the legacy of your name, but nobody else really has a sense of what you're doing anymore. Those are the organizations, I wouldn't say bring them into the 21st century, but kind of.
Right.
Because I think there are a lot of folks that want to join things, but if they don't know that you're there or you're not speaking their language so that they feel like they're welcome, then your dwindling membership or your dwindling mission isn't getting out there because it's just not connecting and reaching the people who need to see it. So I've worked with a few organizations where they need a refresh.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting because it's kind of an adapt or die situation.
Oh, wow.
Like if you don't do something, this organization may not be here because the next generation that needs to take over this organization isn't in your current membership population. I mean, I think about churches a lot.
Yes, that's what I was just thinking about as you said that. Yes. Yeah.
I think about churches a lot because I think they have, when you think about the civil rights movement, when you think about how they have been the cornerstone of so many spaces of transformation, resistance, our churches are not what they used to be.
Yeah.
And so there's opportunity there to make them not what they used to be, but something else.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast where a woman was talking about that, where she's like, hey, that church that has your grandma's friends, like consider staying there for a little bit and seeing what you can make it be. It's an opportunity, instead of trying to like run to the next church that has the full-fledged colorful concerts every Sunday, see what you can do right where you are,
Yeah.
Thinking about that, if someone wanted to create a third space, like in a literal physical sense, where should they begin?
I'm big on mission, vision, values. I feel like you got to know your why. That should be crystal clear, because then when you know your why, you have something to start with. You have your compass, because when you know your why, you're able to then say, okay, this is what we need to build, or this is where we need to do it, or this is how we need to work this in. You don't sometimes have to have a physical space. I know there are a lot of spaces that already exist, and it's more of, can you create a partnership with that space? Or do you have access to community spaces, whether that's, a YMCA or a church, or, you do something in your neighborhood, just meeting up with people. It doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Yeah.
And start small. I tell people start small. I know everybody wants it to turn into a raving success, but oftentimes things start small. If you honestly can get 10 to 12 people to show up to your thing, like pat yourself on the back.
That's a good amount. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then my other question would be, are there strategies for community building that work across very different industries and sizes of organizations?
I think surveying as a strategy, I'm a big fan of surveying because I need information and data to make a decision. And so when you do a survey, and specifically for whatever it is, if it's, engagement to try to see what people want to do, or if it is around, culture, or it might be around, we have some programming ideas and initiatives we want to roll out, but maybe we need to figure out which ones to prioritize, or maybe we need to just decide if this is even something that you all would be interested in. I'm big on surveying. I like focus groups depending on who the groups are, because when you're saying I want something for everyone, I feel like when you have focus groups that are specific to certain identities, you realize this whole I want something for everyone doesn't sometimes work because everyone wants different things.
Yeah.
And so getting information, I think, is huge. I find working with a third party or someone outside is always great because confidential, anonymous surveying is when you really get people to tell you how they feel. If they feel like you can trace the information back to them, they may not tell you the whole truth because they're concerned that it may come back on them.
Yeah.
So I find that when I'm asked to do surveys, and even when they know it's confidential, anonymous, they'll be like, really? Who said that? And it's like, it doesn't really matter who said that. That's the feedback you got. And I am not saying that means that there's a whole swath of people that believe the same thing that this person does. But the fact that this person has had this experience, you need to hold this and think about it and consider it. And maybe you may want to look at how you do things differently. And so that as a strategy is huge.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Survey. That's a really good takeaway. Thank you. If you could leave leaders with one piece of advice about building spaces where people can truly thrive, what would it be?
When I think about leadership, you have to be the person that leads by example.
Okay.
And that means that if you say we are an organization that values your perspective, or we want to hear what you think, then you have to walk that talk every day. I think leaders sometimes don't know that people are watching them. People are watching you in the small moments more so than the big keynotes and the big recognition award ceremonies. I mean, those things are important.
Yeah.
But I find that when you invite folks to lunch to sit with you, or when you decide how you're going to select the next place that you do something and you pick a location that's accessible, or you decide you don't want it to be really dressy and maybe people can get silly and wear hats or funny glasses, or, you set the tone. And so the biggest advice I give to leaders is that everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
In the small moments, more so sometimes than the big ones.
Wow. That's really good. Garland, thank you so much. This is so wonderful. Such wisdom.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Museum leaders, hire Garland. This has been another episode of Nosy AF. I'm your host, Stephanie Graham. If you liked what you heard today, go ahead and give Nosy AF some love by leaving a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening. It helps folks who find the show think, ooh, if they like Nosy AF, I might like it too. You can find full show notes and transcripts at nosyaf.com, and while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, Good Stuff Only, where I share studio stories, fresh art, messy ideas, and each month's episodes straight to your inbox. Thank you so much for your time today. Until next time, stay curious and take care. Bye.